Whoops. Oh. Hello, welcome back. It has been a month before I've been able to sit down and film this because, as you can still hear, I have been so ill. I feel like my immune system has definitely taken a tumble yet again for the worse, so I wanted to film this at the start of January so that it would be out, which would make sense, but better late than never. So basically for today's video I wanted to film a everything I read in 2023 because I actually did read quite a lot, which I didn't realise at the time, but bringing everything here, I've got a library, a mini library in the living room with me. So I did set myself the reading goal of 2023 to have read 2 books every month, which would mean 24 books by the end of the year. And I actually did manage to do it this year and I read 27 books. I've set my goal for this year as 30 because I feel like if I did 27 last year, I could probably push it and make it to 30. Obviously there is no pressure when it comes to reading. I have got to the point where I think if I'm not thoroughly enjoying the book that I'm reading, I am just going to DNF it because there's no point in pushing yourself to read the book even if you're not enjoying it just for the sake of finishing the book so you can say that you've read it. At the end of the day, reading is meant to be something that you do for fun, that you enjoy. There shouldn't be any pressure on it. I know with a lot of like TikToks and YouTube videos of people being like, I read 100 books this year, it can be a bit daunting, but at the end of the day, if you've read your book and you've enjoyed that 1 book, 2 book, fair enough, like, you do you, boo. I'm not here to judge. I simply just, I'm here because I like books and because I like to read books. Enter Rory Gilmore scene. But I do enjoy reading, so I do read a bit more than what is deemed a normal amount, I would say. Obviously I'm not reading 200 books a year because I do work full time, so I do not have time to have a social life, go to work and read that many books. But I wish I could read that many books and just live my life reading, but I do what I can when I can. But anyways, I'm going to stop rambling because I have a lot of books to discuss. So grab yourself a drink, get cozy, get pen and paper if you want to take notes. You might find that there's some books here that have sparked your interest and hopefully I've encouraged some of you to at least read some of my recommendations because I can't stop yapping about these, so enjoy. I do find that January is always the month that I read the most books because, like today, it is gloomy and wintry and rainy and nothing else is going on really because everything's kind of on the come down from Christmas. So in January I read 4 books last year and I started it with a non-fiction and I read Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mum Died. I was never really a giant iCarly fan. I watched it here and there, but I heard so many good things about this and I feel like when it's an autobiography I just do gravitate to them sometimes. I'm not really a non-fiction person, but when it's an autobiography I will be there because I find it so interesting to see, especially in this case, like how she's playing the character of Sam in iCarly and you would never expect her to have things going on in her own life. Like, you just don't see that side at all. It is very, I don't want to say disturbing because it in a mean way, but the things that she went through are disturbing, and definitely look up the trigger warnings before reading it. I know she also did the audiobook and she actually narrated it herself, which I found a lot of people did enjoy that because it's like she is telling the story herself, which I think sometimes helps when it's an autobiography because it feels like a more personal level. But I really enjoyed this. I don't really rate, I do rate books, but not in a serious way that I know some people do. So I think I would give this a 4-star read from me. I would recommend it if anybody wanted to have a go at it, or if not, definitely have a listen to the audiobook because that would probably get you through it a bit easier. If you're not hugely into non-fiction and autobiographies, maybe give the audiobook a go. I feel like that might help you a bit more. I then read November 9 by Colleen Hoover, which don't even come for me. I know we don't need to talk about it, everybody knows, but it was my Secret Santa gift and I wanted to read it, okay? I am allowed to read what I want to read. So I read it and you know what? I bloody loved it and I gave it a 5 star. I thought that the storyline was good. I thought the twist in it was good. I'm in love with Benton Kessler, don't even start. I think despite the Coho controversy, she knows how to write a book sometimes. Bear with me. Sometimes. 5-star from me. Maybe the only 5-star of hers that I would ever give. I don't know what it is about it. To be honest, I can't even really remember it that much at this point because it was so long ago. But I'm giving it 5 stars and I don't want to hear any slander. Moving on. Then I read Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid and I've never read anything like this before. It's written in script style, so it's almost like an interview, like this person said this, this person said this, kind of like a play in a sense, like Daisy and then Billy, because basically it's an interviewer is going to interview this band, Daisy Jones and the Six, from after all their years of success, and I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's a twist at the end, and yeah. Also, they made it into the TV show on Amazon Prime. Sam Claflin was Billy. If that's not going to swing you to watch it, I don't know what will. I do prefer the book to the show. If you want to watch the show, and then at least you will know what I'm talking about. And then again, my fourth book for January was another Colleen Hoover book. Don't even look at me like that. It was a Christmas present off my nan. I'm going to read what she got me. And I've realised that I've just picked up the wrong one. It's actually the second one to this, because I read this the year before. Quite enjoyed it. Not anything outstanding. But it starts with us. I just didn't think it was necessary. It was very slow paced. Like, I get why she did it so we could see Atlas's side of the story, but I don't really think I needed Atlas's side. It was a bit slow, kind of pointless in my opinion. I would have rated It Starts With Us, I'm gonna say a 1 star, honestly. I wasn't vibing with it. I just realised I did not rate this. This, I would say, is a solid 4.5 from me. In February, I just read one book, and that was Wendy Darling. I am the biggest Peter Pan fan ever. It's been my favourite Disney movie since I was a kid. Anything Peter Pan, I always have a gravitational pull towards it. So when I saw this, and it was about Wendy's life after Neverland, I thought I have to read it. I have to know what's going on. It started out really promising, and then it slowly got to the point where I was like, I hate every single thing about this. Because as I'm getting older, I don't know if it's just my frontal lobe forming, because now I'm nearly 25, but Peter Pan, everybody actually hates him. Which is shocking to me, because he's like my bestie boy. Ew. But you know when you just feel so overprotective of a character? That is how I feel about him. And in this book, they made him the most evil little boy I've ever known. I absolutely hated him in this. So basically it's about Wendy, Michael and John after coming back from Neverland. Wendy has been put in an insane asylum because she won't stop talking about Neverland and everybody thinks she's lost her mind. I think it's John, the eldest brother, goes to fight in the World War II, and... or is it Michael? It might be Michael, the younger brother goes, and he gets incredibly bad shell shock from seeing everything that happens in the war, and John is kind of having to balance taking care of Wendy and taking care of John. But then Wendy goes back to Neverland and Peter's evil. I don't know. I can't even remember. It upset me so much I've tried to forget, to be honest. 1 star. Don't read it. And in March I read 2 books, and I started with Medusa because if there's one thing about me, I love Greek mythology. I don't know what it is. Is every girl like this? They just slightly obsessed with Greek mythology? But I saw this and I thought, I want to know her side of the story, because everybody knows that she has the snake hair and that she turns people to stone, but there's got to be more to the story. I really liked this, but I wouldn't say it was incredible. It's a nice little prequel to what you know happens. I'm realising that I'm terrible at describing books. I would rate it 3 star. Yeah, that's really all I have to say on that. My mind is blank. It was just a simple prequel story. Next up, I read Everything I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton, and I love Dolly Alderton so much. Everything she has written, I have read. I'm a big, big stan. I don't know why it took me so long to get to this one though, because I think this was her first one I nearly said she dropped. She released. It's a non-fiction, again, kind of like an autobiography, but not an autobiography. She's discussing life in her 20s and stories from her past, reminiscing about girlhood and the friendships and mistakes she's made and events that happened to them, living in a flat in London, trying to find a job and a career path. Like, I think it was just a very good book to read at this time in my life when I'm like in my early mid-20s. I would recommend it to any girl or boy, but definitely the girls. Like, it's got such a good sense of girlhood. I did cry at one part and in it it's got a sad section. It's just some amazing bits of advice. 5-star, would read again, would recommend to everyone. Please read it if you have not already grabbed this. In April I also got through 2 books, and the first one was The Good Girl Complex by Elle Kennedy, and I actually didn't buy this. My boyfriend bought me this for my birthday or Christmas one year. He buys me a book for any event, celebration. And when he gave me this, I was like, I would never pick this for myself. But he has a habit of doing this, and then it's a very good book. And it's just a silly little romance, like not too hard to go through, like very quick paced. I feel like I read this in 2 days because it was so gripping in a way, even though I would never expect that. My biggest pet peeve with it that I absolutely hated, and every time the word would come up I would cringe and I'd be like, no, why are you ruining this, was every other sentence out of this man's mouth had the word princess in it. Don't, I'll be sick. I think it's a me problem. I hate that word. Like, I don't know what it is. It just ignites the ick in me so hard. And it could be such a nice little moment or scene, and then they'll say that and I'll be like, get away from me. I just hate it. So if you don't mind that, or if you even like that, you will absolutely love this. I know there is a sequel to it as well about the brother's perspective, but I'm not reading that because I liked it but not enough to read the second POV. I don't know what star I would give this. Maybe like 3.5, but very good if you are YA, younger generation, just getting into reading, easy read, just a cutesy romance, nothing too hard hitting. I then read, I don't have it anymore, I donated it to a charity shop after I'd finished it. It was a book called My Sister the Serial Killer. I'll pop it on screen so you can see it if you want to buy it. And I actually didn't buy this myself. Again, I was gifted it as a birthday gift from my boyfriend's cousin, and to be fair to them, it was not their fault, because when they asked my boyfriend what's Caitlin's favourite genre to read, he told them crime. I have never read a crime book in my life, and we've been together for 4 years. I don't know why or how that was the first thing that jumped into his mind, so it's not their fault. But he bought me a couple of crime books and I read it. I didn't really enjoy it at all. It was one of those where I was like reading it just to finish the book, which I'm trying not to do anymore. I definitely would have DNF'd that. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 1 star. It was one of those books when you don't know what the point in the story is. We're just telling a story for the sake of telling a story. There was no arc. You know, in school when you used to do the story mountain, where was the climax, the ending? What was going on? Couldn't tell you, to be quite honest. It was very boring. No offense to the author. I just simply did not enjoy it, so moving quickly on. Another book that I read in May, which I also don't have because I donated it to the charity shop because I didn't enjoy it again, was a book called Blood Sugar. The synopsis sounded really promising. It was about a girl who, when she's 5 or 6 years old, murders this boy in the sea, which, slay. I'm kidding. Because he was bullying her sister or something, and she's grown up getting away with the murder of it. And I thought, this is intriguing, because boyfriend, take notes, we like thriller, not crime. There's a line, know the difference. So yeah, I would say it was more thriller than it was crime, but I just didn't enjoy it. No. Again, another story without the story mountain, the beginning, the build up. Where's the solution? I was left flabbergasted, just like, what did I just read? Not really sure. Again, 1 star, don't recommend. Yeah, it was a doozy reading month, to be honest. I was not having a good time. But then because I was in a bit of a reading slump from all my bad reads, I decided to read the Percy Jackson series, which I know is giving 12-year-old boy. Hear me out. I love the Percy Jackson movies. I had never read the books, so I didn't understand the slander when I was a kid, and everyone hated the movies and they were like, what is this? And we only got movies 1 and 2. So when it ends on the cliffhanger of who is Talia, I am furious, because I'm like, why do we not get to know? I want to know who she is. So I was perusing in the works one day and I saw the whole series for £10 and I thought, screw it, I'm gonna read it and find out who Talia is and what she does. So I did. This was my summer reading of a 23-year-old girl. No, how old am I? Yeah, a 23-year-old girl was reading Percy Jackson series for the summer. And you know what? I had a great time. I will say that they are very obviously teen reads. They're not very high literature classic art, but for what they are, the world building is incredible. I think Rick Riordan did a great job with that. And reading book 1 and 2 was a bit hard because obviously I'd seen the movies, so I could see it in my head, the movie, but finding out what happens in the rest of the series, I was really enjoying it, and I really wish that they had made the films. I understand why now from reading the books why everybody was annoyed with the movies, because they are so entirely different, but I don't think that they discredit the movies at all, because I still thoroughly enjoy the films. I know that Disney Plus have just brought out the Percy Jackson series, which I haven't watched yet, but I'm going to watch that and see if they've done a more accurate job of the book. But yeah, if you fancy a bit of, would you say it's fantasy? Fantasy slash Greek mythology, mythical legends, like Poseidon, Athena, Medusa, they're all in here, Cyclops, you know. I don't know what I'm gonna rate them overall a 3.5 because I'm not gonna read them again, but I would recommend them to anybody who is younger. I think if I'd read them when I was younger, I would enjoy them much more than I did, obviously, now that I'm 23, 24, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that was my summer reading. Then in August, I started reading The First to Die at the End, which is the second book in They Both Die at the End series. I think it's only going to be duology, and first of all, I hate reading a hardback, so the fact that I picked this up because I wanted to read it that badly shows my dedication to how good the first book was. I read the first book last year and I loved it. I was bawling my eyes out, so I knew that this one was going to be good, and the way that Adam Silvera links every character into the different chapters, like you'll read a chapter from a random person's POV and you think, who is this person? Why are we reading this right now? I don't need to know this. But then it all connects in the end, and I just think his mind is incredible, the way that he is able to plan so far ahead and like interconnect everything, weave everything together. Like the characters from the first book are in this as kids, and I just think he has created such an incredible world, like, and it makes you think so hard, like, what if this did happen? What would you do with your last day on Earth? Basically, the synopsis is that they invented a app or a program on your phone, and everyone would get a call 24 hours before their last day on Earth. So you've got your final day to spend the day doing whatever you want to make the most out of your last day on Earth, and you can be a young boy who's 17 and get the call, or you can be an 80-year-old woman. Like, it's just to let everybody know that they want to spend their final day on Earth like doing the absolute most that they can to make them happy. And I don't know what I would want to do, and every time I read these books, I'm like, not giving myself anxiety, but stressing myself out of it, being like, but what would I do? Like, how do you want to spend your final day? It's a lot of pressure. But yeah, I definitely please read the first one, and if you like it enough, read the second one. This is 5 stars from me. Now, I'm not even going to mention this for too long because you'll be sick of me, but in August I took a very exciting journey and became fully aware of these characters that live in my mind rent-free. And for that, I'm forever thankful for Jessa Hastings for doing so. And I started the Magnolia Parks universe. This series is honestly the best series of books I've ever read in my whole life. I'm not even being dramatic when I say that, and I usually am. Oh, but I promise, like, I have begged my best friend to read these books because she would adore them, and she just won't, and nothing irks me more. If I could go on about something forever, it would be this series. I'm not gonna lie, I do prefer Magnolia Parks to Daisy Hates, which is so unpopular opinion of me because everyone is a Julian Hates stan. I don't get it. Basically, it is very much Gossip Girl-esque, high society, but in London, and it's all socialites, Magnolia Parks and BJ Valentine and the full box set, and just being in the press. I can't even say anymore because I just love them with my whole heart. The Magnolia Parks ones, this one, The Long Way Home, whoa, I was crying. But I'm so excited because Magnolia Parks Into the Dark comes out February 13th, and best believe you will not be able to contact me for 24 hours that I will be reading it because I need that book more than anything else right now. I'm really disappointed, Jessa, if you're watching. that you've only decided to do 3 books for Magnolia Parks and we're gonna get 4 books for Daisy Hates, because I'm just not as big of a Daisy Hates fan. Like, I like how by reading the 2 like next to each other, you see behind the scenes of things that happen in Magnolia Parks that you don't know all the details of, and they all interconnect as well. Again, Jessa Hastings is incredible at interlacing events and making everything connect so everything joins the dots, but I don't know what it is. I think I just prefer the relationship between Magnolia and BJ than I do to Daisy and Christian, and I'm rooting for them so much. Like, I hope, please let it be a happy ending, because I cannot go through it again. It's an absolute 6-star read from me. Go and buy these books now, if you take one thing from this video. So then, after being dragged through the mud, heartbroken, put back together, basically reading slump after finishing Magnolia Parks, I picked up Tomorrow, Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin, and I was pleasantly surprised with this. I thought I might not like it because I think it's a literary fiction. I can never say that. Literacy fiction. You know what I'm saying. And I've never read a book like this before, I don't think. It is a romance, but it's not a romance, and I don't know, it's so hard to describe this book. Every time I've tried to tell anybody about it, I really struggle, because unless you've read it, I feel like you don't know what I'm trying to say, which makes this very difficult. But I think I really liked it. It stuck with me for sure. The characters and the relationships in it and the trials and tribulations. I think it's very realistic and it's very accurate how it's like a representation of actual real life. I think that's why I like it. It's not sugarcoated, everything's amazing because we're in love and XYZ. I think I like it because it's flawed and there's miscommunications between the characters, and you do sit there and you think, if only you had told this or only you'd said that, then this wouldn't have happened. But I think because it is exactly like real life, that is how life is, I think that's why I enjoyed it so much. I did cry. There was a very sad section in this which I was not expecting, and I think at first I found it quite hard to connect to the characters, but the more I got into it, the more I really have carried these characters with me. And it does pop into my head quite often, this book, just in certain sections of life. Definitely different, but definitely worth the read. I think I would rate it for a 4. I'm gonna go with a 4, solid 4. Again, in October, I re-entered the fantasy world, which I think actually might be my first dip my toe in the pond of the fantasy world. I've not really been a fantasy girl before. Again, not gonna talk about this for too long because I will spend the rest of the video talking about it. You already know what I'm gonna say. You will be sick to death of me talking about this. I'm so sorry, but I'm not, because it's incredible. And I have never read a book like this. Look at the tabs. Yeah. I don't tab books, but I did for this. Lauren Roberts wrote this when she was 18. That is disgusting to me. Like, how? I'm so jealous. I wish I could write like this when I was 18. Basically, to summarize really quickly without running my mouth and spoiling it or just drooling, Kai and Payden, I can't even talk about it without giggling. It's so, like, why is he flirting with me? You know, that's the vibe that I get. Basically, there's a plague and it's cleansed out the people of people who have powers and people who don't, hence the name. And all the people who don't have powers live in the slums, and they're trying to get rid of the powerless people because the king thinks that they're gonna contaminate all the people with powers and like dull their powers. So they have the trials for the people with the powers, and they compete to see who is the best out of the best. And along the way, Payden ends up somehow being involved in these trials even though she is powerless. Spoiler alert! And she meets Kai, who is like top boy, best of the best. Yeah, they meet. They have the best tension and flirting I've ever read. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a smut girl. I hate smut. But if you give me a slow burn tension, I'll eat it up every time. Yeah, that's all I'm saying, because I physically cannot. 6 stars, absolutely. It's £5 in the works. Go and pick it up. That's less, well, it's the same price as a meal deal these days. Go and get it. Then I didn't read a book for a whole month after reading Powerless because I physically could not bring myself to come back to any form of reading because I just didn't want to. I was so happy where I was with Powerless that I couldn't find anything that I thought I would enjoy, and I thought if I did pick something up I just would immediately hate it because it wasn't going to be Powerless. So I did the only thing that I knew would fix me. My favourite book of all time. I reread it every October because it is the most cozy autumn October time book. I read it when I was 12. It's YA. Don't come for me. It's my comfort book, and I knew that if anything was going to get me out of the slump it would be this because I could never hate this book. So I read Shiver by Maggie Stavata. Fun fact, I actually met this girl, she is fully a woman, and she signed my book when I was 12 in Waterstones in Manchester, and I had, bless her heart, I had 8 books to take with me of hers. And she signed every single one. She was lovely. I could not love her more. And the fact that she even wrote this book makes it even better because she is such a comfort person to me. Like, this book is just comfort. Sam and Grace are my favourite characters. And I know as soon as I say this, everyone's going to be like, oh, it's just like Twilight. It's about a werewolf. Don't. It's not like Twilight at all. And the stigma around like vampires and werewolves is really off-putting for me. Like, if someone says vampire, I'm like, ugh, no, because of Twilight. Because I just wasn't a Twilight girl. But this couldn't be further from Twilight. It's a romance, a YA romance, and I absolutely gobble it up. It's just my comfort book. It's about Sam, who is a werewolf, and Grace, who is the girl who lives by the woods. They meet, and it's about, like, it's just their story. And best believe, I actually didn't physically read it this time. I listened to it on Spotify audiobooks and it immediately cured me. I was fixed. So thank you to Maggie Stavata for curing me of my book slump as I knew you would. 6 stars. Then my book club's book of the month for November was Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber, and again I listened to this on audiobook because I was just busy. It's the busiest time of the year, so I listened to this on audiobook, but I did buy the physical copy first because I thought I was going to have a chance to read it. I did enjoy this. It's fantasy again, like romantasy I would say. I don't really know what to say about it. Basically I got the second one as well because this was also in book club. I preferred the second one to the first one. Jax, that's why I preferred the second one. He is in the first one, but I feel like he's a completely different character in the second one. I don't really know how to explain this without going into a massive tangent about it. It's very whimsical, like fates and not fairies, there's no fairies. Fates and vampires and curses and legends and myths. Yeah, like there's quests. There's a lot of questing going on. Very much, I wouldn't say they're enemies to lovers, more like slow burn, I need your help with something romance. Don't know what that trope would be called, but there you go. Haven't read the third one though. I'm not in a rush to read it is the thing. Like, I like this series, but I'm not as invested in it as everybody else is, which I'm quite disappointed in. I thought I was gonna love it. I think I'd give it a 3.5. Sorry to my best friend who absolutely adores this series. Yeah, 3.5 from me. I will read or slash listen to the third one on audiobook, but I don't know. I'm just not in a rush to do it yet. I feel like I have so many more things that I want to read before I do that. Then in December, my girl Jessa Hastings brought out her new series, which was a Peter Pan retelling. It's like she's doing it for me. For me, especially. Like, she knows I've literally just said how much I love Peter Pan, and she brought out a series called Never that she's apparently been working on for years. I had such high hopes for this, and because it was Jessa Hastings, I thought she could never do no wrong. She kind of did wrong. Not wrong, like, she's free to do whatever she wants, but I'm just so upset because I wanted to love it like I love Magnolia and BJ. Again, she's taken the turn of making me want to hate Peter Pan. And as a Peter Pan childhood favourite, I don't want to do that. So I was quite disappointed in that sense. I don't believe the controversy with it. Like, I know there was some backlash, but I don't think that it was meant in that way. I think people were very quick to come for her in that sense. But I don't know, it's hard because she absolutely nailed the fact that Peter is a child. Like, he is a spoiled child. He gets what he wants and he wants what he wants. He doesn't care about anybody else's feelings. Why do I like this boy? See, maybe it's my frontal lobe is being developed so that I actually think, why is he my favourite? But I think she nailed Peter Pan in the sense of making his character so believable, and I think it might be a me problem, but I just didn't connect with it the same way I connected with Magnolia Parks. And Jameson Hook, like, his Scottish accent, not sure why he's Scottish because James Hook is from London. Very weird for him to be Scottish, but the way that she was writing his accent, that was kind of a throw off. I don't know. It was very samey, to and fro, Peter Hook, Peter Hook. Can't make your mind up, Daphne. I was just getting a bit annoyed with her, to be honest. And I know that this is going to be a series, which I will read because it's Jessa and maybe she's going to pull it out the bag. But I wasn't wowed by this, to be honest. Artwork, stunning. I'm just so disappointed with it. I'm gonna give it, I'm not even giving this a star on my Goodreads yet because I just couldn't decide, but I think I'm gonna have to go with a 3, which hurts because I love Jessa Hastings so much, as we know, and I wanted this to be so good. I thought it was gonna be incredible, but I'm sticking with a 3. Don't get me wrong, I was like, she still writes incredible and she has such a way of using incredible metaphors to describe emotions. I loved the section where they go up to the sky and drop off their baggage in the mirror. That was my favourite bit. But in terms of, again, Story Mountain, what's the point in the story? I have no idea. I couldn't really tell you. Then lastly, the last book that I read in 2023 was Flawless by Elsie Silver on my Kindle, I might say, that Santa brought me for Christmas. We'll talk about that another time because I could go into that completely on a separate tangent. But I read Elsie Silver's Flawless Chestnut Spring series. I'd heard a lot about it on TikTok and I just wanted a silly little romance to get me to the end of the year because I wasn't feeling romance from Never. So I picked up the cowboy one and I absolutely gobbled through this. I think I read it in 2 days. You could argue it's because I was reading it on the Kindle. I feel like reading on the Kindle, tap, 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 and finish the book. But I think it's very fast paced, it's easy romance, it was enemies to lovers, this one, I think. I'm getting them mixed up because I've read a couple of them now. There's 5 books in the series about all the brothers. This was about the first brother who's a bull rider and his agent's daughter comes to stay with him to make sure that he's not getting bad press, basically. Enemies to lovers. You get where I'm going with this. But yeah, I've actually really enjoyed the Chestnut Spring series so far. I've just read the 3rd one and I think that was my favourite one, but we'll talk about that in next year's one, I guess. So yeah, that is everything that I read in 2023. 27 books, like, that's a lot. Quite impressed with myself, to be honest. I feel like you don't notice how much you read until you physically put all the books together. Like, that's a lot of pages. That's just one stack. There's another stack. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found maybe some new books that you might want to pick up or have a little look into, see if you want to start the Magnolia Park series. I would recommend it because the last one for Magnolia is coming out in February, so you could get on that so that you get to experience it with the rest of the world. I hope you enjoyed my book video because I've never done a book one before. I didn't know if anybody would even care, but it's something that I care about and I enjoy doing, and I've spent the whole year reading, so I felt like it would be silly for me to not document what I've read. But yeah, I will see you in my next video. Bye!